All right, everybody, let's give Kirk a round of applause. We're going to get going and start. Here you go.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Kirk Huntsman. I was born the oldest of 4 sons into a family where both my grandfathers worked their entire lives in the copper mines of Utah. Today, I'm a husband, a father of 4, and a grandfather of 9.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty good until I sat next to the Chief Izzy, who informed me he has 29 grandchildren. And I asked him how many children he had, and he said 12. And I said, and then my immediate thought was, with the same woman? And she was sitting right there, so I didn't dare ask that. But then he said, no, I don't have 12, I have 10. I think she was elbowing him to correct him, actually, on that. But anyway, it is such a distinct honor and pleasure to be here today amongst so many accomplished men and women from so many different backgrounds and life experiences. Today, we have heard from an ambassador, an astronaut, a chief, and entrepreneurs, diplomats, lobbyists, founders, creators, and so much more. As I thought about what I might say in my very brief 15 minutes of fame, I heard a voice, a still small voice, whisper into my mind. Tell them why they're here. And my first thought was, I don't know any of these people, and I have no idea why they're here. I figured Dustin must have bribed most of you to be here. So the voice whispered again, tell them why they're here. And I said, you mean why they're here? Like in the meaning of life? And the voice said, yes, tell them that. And then the voice, as it often does, went silent. And I was left alone to consider and reconsider that task. So here we are, and here we go. As I mentioned, each of you is a person of great accomplishment, or you probably wouldn't have gotten the invite. Some of you run magnificent companies. Others apparently run tribes or rule over people and have influence over a great many lives. Some of you write or have other talents that you share with the world. And I would simply ask, for what purpose? Why do we do what we do? To what end? Is there a purpose, Rabbi? There is. Is there any underlying reason why we're here today? Let's see if we can agree on something for just a moment. We are here, at the risk of sounding like a particular presidential candidate, we are here and we are conscious and we are aware of the world around us. Surely we can all agree on that. This life is real. We are not in some Alice in Wonderland fairy tale. So here we are. But why? Is life some sort of accident? Are we a byproduct of a billion years of evolution from some primordial soup? How do we make sense of it all? So what's about to follow is one man's journey to find meaning and purpose. First, I want to affirm something. I want to affirm that God lives. That is the fundamental reality on which all meaning rests. Because if there is no God, there can be no meaning. No greater purpose to all that we witness and are witnesses to here as humans on earth. Second, I want to say that we are not here by some cosmic accident. God created this world and all the very specific conditions of this world that make life possible. We heard Robert talk about the sun and the moon and the relative distance between those two. One of so many thousands and tens of thousands of conditions that were just perfect for life and make life possible. Ultimately, God created us, male and female, in his own image and likeness. Third, after God created the earth and all things therein, he declared it to be good. And all the sons and daughters of God shouted for joy. That good world into which each of us was born was declared good by God himself. Yet down here in the trenches, we find great evil, wickedness all around, opposition at every turn, and at certain times and in certain places, tremendous sorrow and grief. Yet there's a verse from an ancient source where God is speaking to Moses, who I learned today was the first rabbi. And he actually was speaking to Moses on a high mountain. And this is what God said to Moses. He said, "Behold, this is my work and my glory, to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man." Nowhere in all of sacred literature that I can find is there a verse where God reveals his mission statement. Now, he didn't say to Moses, this is his mission statement, but that's what we modern types would see. Yet there it is, to bring to pass our immortality and eternal life. And in yet another ancient Abrahamic text, the God of heaven appears to Abraham and says, "My name is Jehovah, and I know the end from the beginning. Therefore, my hand shall be over thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee above measure, and make thy name great among all nations." So the nature of that God of Moses and Abraham appears to me to be a God not only of power, but of purpose. A God who knows the end from the beginning of, well, I suppose everything. I like that. I can relate to and worship a God like that. So just what does that mean? Well, ever since men could think and write, we have wondered about how such a wise and caring God, who is infinitely good, could create a world where evil and wickedness and pain were so prevalent. How is that possible? And for centuries, no one has been able to come up with much of a good answer. So today I'd like to humbly offer the answer that I've come up with, or that perhaps I've learned from a lot of study and a lot of life experience. God is our Father, and we are not merely his creation, we are his children, formed and born into an eternal family after his image and likeness. As such, he has sent us here to learn and to be tried and tested. He has given us a great gift, a gift of agency and free will, to see what we will do. But of course, in a world of opposites, without both good and evil, without things to choose between, that agency or free will would be meaningless. And so he allowed opposition to be here. Opposition that makes life hard. Opposition that makes creating anything worthwhile incredibly difficult, as every entrepreneur in this room knows. Opposition that entices men to do evil, to hate one another because of silly and superficial things, to have endless conflicts and wars and bloodshed within families and among nations. This place we call home here on earth, but for a brief time, is a school. And evil is necessary to school us. By our experiences in life, we learn to choose good over evil, right over wrong, to give, to love, to embrace, to forgive, and to learn to do all the things that God intends for us to learn. And that, my friends, is the great and elusive meaning of life. That our Father in heaven has sent us here to learn to walk by faith, to be tried and tested to see if we will choose good over evil, if we will learn to love our brother as our Father has loved us, and whether we will follow the example of his only begotten Son. Someday, we will all be called home to give an accounting before him of our choices during our brief time here on earth. So I would ask, what kind of a world are we creating? Are we turning our hearts towards God by loving one another? Are we learning to choose good over evil? As we learn to show our love of God by choosing the right, by doing good, by serving our fellow man in whatever we are called to do, we are in fact bringing about God's mission to bring to pass our immortality and eternal life. Our pains, our sorrows, our sufferings here, due to the very presence of evil, are all part of his divine plan for our growth and happiness. So today I have some gifts. I don't know if Liz is here. Is Liz in here? Liz is gone. Todd, would you start? Liz was going to help with passing out some hats. I actually brought some hats for you. There's Liz. I have some gifts. There are 3 different colors of hats going around, and I hope each of you gets a color you like. On the front of each hat are the words. I don't know if this one's going to fit or not. You can maybe see that, the words Pura Vida. Now, some of you may be familiar with this if you've ever traveled to Puerto Rico or to Costa Rica. The words Pura Vida have a very specific meaning in that culture. Los Ticos are the names of the natives there, and they use this term very frequently. And Pura Vida means something, in English it means pure life, but it doesn't really translate. In Spanish, and to those people in particular, Pura Vida is something, it's a way of life. It's a way of living. It's a way of doing good and being true to your beliefs. So Pura Vida is the kind of reality that I'm inviting each of you to embrace. It's the kind of life that gives more than it takes. It's living your best life. It's living the good life, a life rich in purpose and meaning. I offer this gift in the hope that whenever you see or wear the hat, you will think about this little talk, and you will remember to fulfill God's mission and purpose for each of us, to love one another, to do good in the world, to serve our God as we serve and care for each other. Oh, and on the back of the hat is my little commercial endorsement for Vivos. Some of you may wonder what Vivos is or what it means. Vivos is a Latin phrase that kind of Spanish Latin. It means the living. My company works with people who suffer from a serious and debilitating disease known as obstructive sleep apnea. For those who suffer with that condition, when they are asleep, they are never fully asleep. And when they are awake, they are never fully awake. And therefore, they are never fully alive. Hence, our mission at Vivos is to help restore them to a state of Pura Vida. I invite you to embrace that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Kirk.